and I want you guys to be actively involved. I know that it's not easy when we don't have this eye contact and face-to-face communication, but still, you can write your messages and share your opinion in the chat, or you can ask your question or make a comment. So I would very much welcome this and encourage you to be involved and participate actively. So we're going to be talking about cultural diversity, stereotypes, and one of the key terms, of course, is culture. First of all, I would like to share this definition, and then I would have a number of questions to you. Okay, so please don't be shy and react the way you want it. So when we think about culture, we have two main definitions that come to our mind. First one is that these are the ideas, customs, social behavior of a particular people or society. And the second definition, the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual and achievement regarded collectively. Now, let me ask you this question. What comes to your mind first? How do you notice when you're interacting with somebody that this person comes from a different cultural background? How do you see this? If, well, let's say, speaking about both verbal and non-verbal behavior, what would be the first, what would be the first symbol that you would pay attention? If there are close languages, okay, let it, yes. Close languages, what else? Now we have so far 3 participants, and we have Rosel Mia. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Correct me if I'm wrong. We have Kazi Musa, and we have Alexander, right? So attitude, language, behavior, close language. Well, of course, the first thing that we notice is something that we cannot touch. We just look at the person. Perhaps those of you who mentioned clothes, that's the right thing, because when, for instance, you see a foreigner, and let's talk about the past a little bit, because it was very easy to mock the foreigner who came to the Soviet Union. And for instance, you looked at the person who would be wearing different clothes and who would speak louder. Usually the voice would be a bit louder than the tone of voice that we used to hear. And this would be the first symbols and first idea that would come to mind. And this is how we will understand it. This is somebody who comes from a different country, from different cultural background. And this is what we have on the top of an iceberg. If you guys heard of the iceberg analogy, have you ever? Yes? Rosel Mia, did I pronounce your name correctly? I'm sorry. And I want to also check we have the chat. So let me see what we have. Okay, we have some comments. Yes, okay. So have you guys also, Alexander and Kazi Musa, have you all heard of the iceberg analogy model? Because this is very important to understand. Yes, great. Okay, well, when you think of an iceberg, and what you are more likely to notice at the very beginning would be the perhaps nonverbal behavior, the clothes, gestures, body language, something that we can easily observe and not always understand, but something that we do acknowledge at the particular moment. And this is on the top of an iceberg. And then we have, let me check if you have, okay. So yeah, you're welcome to share your comments here. And then we have different things. Then we have down under the water, we have beliefs, we have values. This is something that we do not understand, that we do not know about the person. This is hidden. So that's why it's called iceberg. And those of you who are familiar with this model heard about that. So it's actually a tool that helps us to understand different cultures and helps to compare various cultures. Now let's move on. And I have another question to all of you. In terms of identity, in terms of your cultural identity, let me ask you, what are the key elements in terms of identifying yourselves? What makes your identity? And I'll give you a hint here, for instance. Let me share this image. So when we talk about cultural identity, we see various components. We have gender identity, we have age identity, we have social and economic status, we have religion, we have sexual orientation, we have language identity, we have mental physical ability, we have also race, ethnicity. So what is more important to you? What comes first in your mind? Let me check. There is some religion. Okay. Thank you, Alexander. What about Kazi, Musa, and what about Raselmia? What are the key elements of your identity? How do you identify yourself? For instance, when you ask me, race, gender, religion, mental. Okay. I'll share my idea about identity with you, because if you ask me who are you, language, I would say, okay, I would say I'm a university professor. I'm from Russia. I'm a female scholar and educator. I would pay attention to my professional identity. I would pay attention to my national identity and to my gender identity. So this would be the key elements. And of course, yes, language is important. Religion, I would say it's something very, very intimate, so I wouldn't point it out, but deep inside, I have some ideas about it. Now, let's move on to the definition of cultural identity. Cultural identity is the identity of belonging to a group. It's part of a person's self-conception and self-perception and is related to nationality, ethnicity, religion, social class, generation, locality, or any kind of social group that has its own distinct culture. And it's interesting because I didn't mention age, okay? I didn't, well, sometimes when I talk to my friends, we can share some comments and maybe be a bit ironic or even sarcastic in talking about our attitude to what's going on now. And sometimes I would hear my friend would say, oh, you talk or I talk like I'm an old lady. And I would say, hey, excuse me, what do you mean talking like an old lady? So in our culture, I would say in Russian culture, age is important, it matters. And although we're trying to stick to an idea that actually it matters as long as the person wants it to matter. But of course, we have certain images, we have certain stereotypes that are being reinforced, and they put this pressure on the people, and the people tend to look younger. They want to look younger. So this is one of the issues. But I think it's not only. It doesn't only refer to Russian culture, it's a global issue. I would like to ask you, what about age identity in your cultures? Razel, Mia, where do you come from? Can you specify, please? And what about age identity? Does it really matter in your home culture? What do you guys think about it? Age, okay, age matter. Yes, okay. Alexander, what do you think? What is your idea? And mm, um, really matters? When you say really matters, would you please elaborate on this? How, I would say, yes, there were certain stereotypes that are being reinforced. Could you give me an example? Could you please give me an illustration?
May I talk?
Yes, of course. Please do.
So actually, I'm mostly Russian, but I live in Kazakhstan.
Okay.
I was born in Kazakhstan, and I would say that mostly my culture is Kazakh culture. And in Kazakh culture, there is huge difference between old person and a young person because young person are more globalized. And when you talk to the old person, he's usually very, very old-fashioned and religious. So there's huge difference in interest and perception of the world.
Wow. So you would, I would agree with, I mean, I'm not familiar. I heard about this traits of Kazakh culture because I've worked with the students of Kazakhstan. But it's interesting because this is what we've been discussing with our students here, with mostly Russian students, that there is this huge gap between the perception of the world and between the mindset. Because the representatives of the younger generation, as you've said, they're more open, and some talking about some issues, they're more tolerant, and they're global. They look globally, and it's for example, the conservative mindset. I would have this association with the representatives of the older generation. So it's interesting. It's very interesting what you've just mentioned. So thank you very much for your comment, and thanks for voicing it. It's really important. Any other comments, guys? If you wanna voice your ideas, please. I would encourage you to do so because it's nice to hear your opinions. Um, Kazi Musa, would you like to say something or to comment your mental perception? Okay, that's the comment by Russell Mia. Decision making versus age matters. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. I would say, guys, I would say that the representatives of the younger generation, they stick to in terms of maybe speaking about business and business communication, they stick to Western standards. They are more, they are more likely to be flexible and accept new ideas, whether the representatives of the older generation, I'm not generalizing, I'm not talking about everyone, but in general, okay, they are more likely to be focused on, oh, we used to do it this way, so let's stick to this model. It's not easy to talk them into changing something. Sometimes you have to fight with this. Sometimes you are successful, sometimes you are not. So it depends. There is another comment. Like young people support Brexit where young don't support it. Um, Wait a second, young people support Brexit, but older people don't support it because I'm not sure if I got it right. So, okay, so you were talking about some attitudes to particular political occurrences and political events. Don't support. Okay, okay. Old people don't support and young people support. Okay, now it's clear. Thank you very much for this comment. Now let me ask you, because it's also interesting, how about involvement in political processes? Who is more involved, the representatives of the older generation or the representatives of the younger generation? Here in Russia, I would say it depends. It depends. It really, it's difficult to say. You have to look at the statistics. What about younger, Alexander? Okay, younger generation, you mean they are more actively involved in politics, right? Is it because do you think, is it because they believe they can change something? Or is it for some other reasons?
I guess it's just because the older generation uh, lived in this country for so long, so they're okay with what is happening right now, and the
Mhm.
younger generation, who is again more globalized, they see what happens in other countries, and they see the huge difference in development, and they want to change something. So
Okay.
the country will become better place.
Wow, that's nice. That's great because I also think that you whenever I interact with the representatives of younger generation, I feel this hope, I feel this initiative, and I'm almost every time I notice this, I'm encouraged to start something on my own because I see this energy, and I see that they believe that they can do something, they can act, they have this proactive attitude. So it's yeah, it's interesting. All right, guys, let's move on to one of our key issues for today. Let's move on to stereotypes, and we'll be talking about their types, functions, and examples. Okay. So first of all, broad definition is a stereotype is an overgeneralized belief about a particular category or of people, or could it be a particular category of ethnic group or culture. It is an expectation that people might have about every person of a particular group. And of course, these types of expectations can vary. It can be, for example, expectations about the group's personality, preferences, appearance, or ability. And here are the types of the various versions of stereotypes that you may encounter: national, racial, social, gender, religious, connected with profession, connected with age. Now I'd like to give you an example, and then I would like to ask you to help me to come up with an illustration or example. What are the main characteristics of stereotypes? First of all, what is the main goal? What is the main function? It's the stereotypes, they help us to simplify available facts and data. Simplification of available facts and information, they are often related to the symbols of national culture. For instance, there is a common stereotype very popular in Russian culture about representatives of British culture. And you, for instance, you can come up with your own version and you tell me what you think. Let's say we would think when I think of British culture, I would have this association: cats, 5 o'clock tea, porridge, and of course, I would think about the royal family. Here I have two images: a cup of tea and a cat. So perfect example of a stereotype referring to British to people in Britain. All British people are very polite. They eat porridge, drink 5 o'clock tea, and adore cats. Is it true? Does it refer to every single person? No, I can't say so. But we've seen these images in the movies, we've heard about this in the commercials, in the ads, in media, so that's why we came up with this idea. It's a very, very interesting example, and it's a brilliant speech, and I would encourage you to watch it, to listen. Have you guys heard of Stephen Fry? You can let me know. Alexander, have you heard of Stephen Fry?
Yes, I watch Top Gear with my father like every day after the lessons.
Okay, great. And other participants, let me check. Okay, we have some, a little. Well, Stephen Fry, I would say he's an embodiment of the British intellectual. He is smart. He is interesting. I remember he once was asked, "What is your IQ?" And he said, "It's reasonable." And he has this very dry sense of humor. And in one of the interviews, he was asked to compare American humor and British humor. And you can just find it with the help of Google, or you go to YouTube and other systems, and you can search for Stephen Fry talking about humor. And one of the ideas that he shared was American humor is based on jokes. So you have jokes all over, and the main character is a real hero, and he knows how to find a way out of every single situation, no matter how how many difficulties he faces. Versus British humor is based on the failure of a character, or the character is a hopeless, and this is what makes it especially funny. And the way he talks, the way he puts these ideas, it's absolutely amazing. So I would encourage you guys to simply take a look at some of these videos, and maybe once again you will come up with your illustration, with your ideas about British culture. Now, another interesting example is set by Ellen DeGeneres. Oops, sorry. Let me move a little bit here. If you see my cat running and jumping around, don't be scared, because I didn't close the door on purpose, because cats don't like when the door is closed. They want their freedom. All right, have you guys heard of Ellen DeGeneres? Alexander, Russell, Casey, Musa, have you?
No.
No? Okay, Ellen DeGeneres is a famous American comedian. She's a TV host. And let me take a look. You have some answers in the chat? Yes. Okay, great. And she's smart. She's intelligent. She's a great host, and she's one of these brilliant examples of female humor, of female comedians. Because sometimes, again, you would think, can women really be a great comedian? Yes, she can be, and Ellen DeGeneres is one of the best examples. One of the games that she offers her guests to play, she asks them to imitate accents. And very often, it would not only be the accent, it would also be the body language, the way the person moves. So here is an example when she invited one of the celebrities, one of the Western celebrities. And also there was another one with Ben Affleck. And she also asked him to imitate accents. And it was great because whenever you have to think of Italian accent, Russian accent, German, French accent, and you will see how the nonverbal behavior changes. So it's also, it's interesting to watch and to analyze and to come up with some ideas concerning various stereotypes about particular cultures. Let's move on. Okay, now how the stereotypes form? Stereotypes are shared as they are the result of a common environment that stimulates people to react in the same way. Another explanation says that people are socialized to adopt the same stereotypes. So basically, let me ask you, how have you learned some of the stereotypes? I would say it's first referred to the way we were brought up, the family basis. We learn it from our family members and from the social environment. What about you guys? How do you, how can you evaluate this? Okay, from YouTube and family. Okay, right, Russian show language is a problem. Yes, and I know that the thing is that some of the TV shows, it's possible to switch on this option, have subtitles in your home language, in English or in the other language. But some of the Russian shows, they are, I'm not sure whether they are translated or not. So yeah, that's a pity. Definitely from YouTube and family. Okay, thank you, Alexander. Thank you for this answer, because I think that it's family, university, friends, YouTube, and it's interesting, but sometimes we do not acknowledge the limits of this influence, because if we hear a comment from a family member and we accept it just because, oh, my dad said so, right? Or my mom said so, I don't have to prove it, I don't have to fact check it, I have to believe it. Have you ever thought about it, and have you ever faced a situation when you heard something, well, referring to stereotypes or prejudice about particular culture, and then you realize that this is not true? Have you ever experienced this? Honestly, I think I have. Family, friends, history. Okay. Yes. Yeah, the history is it's interesting because there are different interpretations of particular historical events, and the interpretations themselves can help us understand what is the main idea that the author wants to highlight. Yes. Okay. All right. So, okay. Since you were thinking, yes, there are, by the way, there are certain stereotypes about events and about personalities. Okay. Now here we have this brilliant picture of stereotyping. What is stereotyping? Stereotyping, a good question. Thank you for it. It's providing a person or a group of people with an idea of a particular culture or country based on certain beliefs. This is not always true. Sometimes it's true. Well, if you tell me, okay, I heard the stereotypes about the Western culture. People always smile. It's a stereotype, but it's true to life. They smile a lot. They do smile. In fact, I'll tell you the story, and it's a very interesting example that has to do with the Western national culture. The first McDonald's, first fast food restaurant was opened in the beginning of 1991, here in Moscow, in Russia, in Moscow. And of course, it was important to hire the local personnel, the local waitresses, local people, and the American managers came up with this idea of training the local people, the Russian waitresses, to smile in a very open way, like Americans do, like really, really open your mouth really wide. And after a week or two, some of the customers, well, I wouldn't say they were complaining, but they were surprised because this is not very common for the Russian culture. First of all, when you have this serious expression on your face, it means that you are not joking. You are being taken seriously. If you smile, the meaning of a smile is different. So those top managers had to change their strategy, and they said, "Okay, guys, you have to smile, but let it be maybe another type of smile." So they had to adjust their they had to adjust their global vision, their strategy to the local reality. So, but is it true that Americans and in Western culture people smile? Yes, it's true. Of course, you can meet someone who doesn't smile. Yes, and he can say, "Oh, I'm from the States." Yes, it might happen. But normally, regularly, people tend to smile because they're brought up this way. They are taught that if no matter what kind of problems you have at home, you come to work and you have to show people that you are happy to see them. Here, it's a bit different. We're also learning to communicate in a different way, but we're still being influenced by the conservative mindsets. And sometimes you can encounter this situation when the waitress or the person, the cashier, would be sharing her personal problems and talking about her private life and almost crying. And you would say, "Hey, you were doing business now. Why are you crying?" And she would look at you and say, "Excuse me, I don't have this separation between business and private life." This was not common, so this is different. Common picture of people and culture, I guess. Okay. It's interesting. I would like to share this with you, and you can express your ideas. Now, there was a survey made by with the help of the Russian students and German students. And the questions were, how do you see yourselves and how do you see the others? Okay, so Russians believe that they are kind-hearted, cheerful, intelligent, hospitable, open-minded, irresponsible, hardworking, naive, survivors, have strong will, prone to have drinking problems. Okay, so this is what Russian students think about themselves. Now, Germans believe that they are, the Germans themselves, punctual, neat, arrogant, goal-oriented, diligent, selfish, materialistic, conservative, and shy. Okay? Now, let's have a look at a different slide. Let's move on. Okay. Now, this is the perception we have about Germans, and this is the perception the Germans believe Russians are. And it's interesting because you have the similar character traits, but the different percentage. Now, Russian believe Germans are intelligent, punctual. Punctuality is mentioned here. Intelligence is mentioned. Hardworking is mentioned. Practical and down to earth. Stingy. Practical. It's in Russian now, but I will translate it to you. And arrogant. And Germans believe Russians are prone to drinking, hospitable, cheerful, love celebrating, humble, open-minded, cordial, sociable, self-confident, nationalistic. So it's interesting how we tend to attribute particular character traits to ourselves and to other cultures, and whether it correlates or it doesn't. For Russian conservative is missing. Yes, I would agree. And thank you for your comment. I would agree that if you talk about the representatives of the older generation, I would say they have this traditional mindset that they are more conservative. But if you talk about the young people, I would say they're less conservative. So within the culture, we have this gap. And in general, yes, we're a conservative nation. But if you look within the culture, you would have to separate and distinguish between the younger generation and the older generation. So it's important. And what about your cultures, guys? What do you think? What comes first? What are the character traits that you would like to highlight, and maybe that people highlight when it comes to culture of Bangladesh, when it comes to culture of Kazakhstan, when it comes to culture of other countries, because not all of them mentioned here. So you can share and you can tell us where you come from. So what is your perception, guys? I want to know. What would be the top 3 character traits that you would attribute to your national culture? Okay. Alexander, do you have any ideas? Okay, thank you. Kazakh people are not punctual, have huge family, like to celebrate. Okay, it's interesting because I had this idea. I've been to Kazakhstan, and I used to work in an international project, European Union project, and we had our partners working there, so we would travel there quite frequently. And yes, my first association would be they have this the importance of family relations, family ties is huge. Like to celebrating, okay, like to have parties. Bangladesh people are usually ambitious and love to talk about politics. Okay, thank you. Interesting. I didn't know, I never heard about that. And it's interesting because there is this correlation, and you talk about political issues. Does it refer to general ideas of people, or it's only to younger generation? Because it's again, it's interesting. Pakistan family system, don't like to work, politics with no sense. Okay, okay. Interesting. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate sharing this. It's interesting, and it's always good to know. And there is another message. Chinese are law obedient and rule abiding. Okay, okay. This is actually when we talk about this coronavirus pandemic, and what happened when China was the first country to start with this really, really strict lockdown measures. And the question was, how are they going to control it? How are they going to check it? And ultimately, there was no need to check it because people are so law obedient, and when they're told to behave in a certain way, they will do it. And it's interesting because you can actually use the example of coronavirus pandemic and compare how people behave and whether they stick to the particular rules and norms of behavior in various cultures based on the ideas they have. So it's another idea, it's another example and another illustration to talking about cultural differences and stereotypes. Let's move on, guys. Okay, national stereotypes. This is something that you heard and about Russia, Russian culture. I used to hear that, and now I keep hearing this from some of the foreign students and professors. But of course, yes, in some regions of our country, we have bears. And sometimes a bear can even come to the house sometimes, but you really have to live far, far from the central part of Russia. And yes, the climate is severe, especially in particular regions of our country. And there is a city where it can get about 60 or even, well, can be 40 and even 60 below zero. So it can be that cold. There is a city called Oymyakon, and you might have heard about that. So that's why, maybe that's the reason that we don't smile, because we have to learn how to cover our noses and our mouths not to get frozen. All right. Now, what are the functions of stereotypes? Of course, one of them is global generalization. It's important, and it's easier for the people to have this particular idea how to place things in boxes, how to organize things. It's easier for us to understand something about other culture when we can categorize it, when we can say, okay, this is blue, this is red, this is white, this is yellow, this is how it works. So it kind of brings order to the world, okay? Orientation, it helps to simplify the world's views that we have. And the other function, and it's also very important, influence in their reality, creating our own reality, setting limits referring to our ethnical group. And it's when you think about the reality created by the media, it does not often replicate the real world, because very often you can sometimes you can notice this, and I've encountered this a number of times. When you start talking to some of your friends or even family members, and you can see that they're being influenced by particular politicians, or maybe by particular people who've been sharing their views, and you think that you too, although live in the same country, but you live in a different world because of the mindset, because of the perception of the reality, because of the values that they hold on to. So it's let me check the chat. I see there. Would you please talk about hegemony? In which sense? Because this is a very interesting issue, and I was going to move on to talk about, give you more examples on stereotypes, racial stereotypes. If you ask me maybe a more precise question, I would try to elaborate, because it's an interesting issue. But of course, you have to know what kind of elements you need to use in order to approach it. Okay, so, and of course, I would be happy to comply. All right, now let's move on to next slides. For instance, you've encountered this typical videos and this wonderful stories on YouTube. For instance, if you want to learn more about, let me make it, yeah, bigger screen. So if you want to learn more about Spanish culture, Colombian culture, Brazilian culture, Russian culture, Mexican culture, other cultures, you can definitely find information in some of the websites. You can also encounter a number of videos. For instance, this is the one I loved because it's the author. She's talking about Spanish culture, and she was using particular examples. And it was interesting because in one of the videos, she addressed three stereotypes that are quite popular here, whether Spanish people don't like to work and they like to sleep all the time, or whether they celebrate all the time, whether they eat quite late, have dinner quite late. And she said that practically the explanation was that it depends. It depends. Yes, Spanish people love celebrating, but and there are plenty of holidays, national regionals. But of course, if you have to work, you have to work, and there would be no celebration. But if you have a chance, if there is a job promotion, if your friend is getting married, or if there's something important going on in your professional life, private life, yes, it's a good reason to celebrate. So you can learn a lot from these videos. And at the same time, you have to understand that these are just the views of particular people. These are just the opinions. These are not the facts. They are sharing some facts, but they are opinionated. So you have to compare them, and then you can come up with a more generalized idea of a particular culture. Yes, and gender stereotypes, this is something, right, but very, very, I would say, topical, referring to Russian culture and global culture and Western culture because of the, Me Too movement, because of the social justice movements, because of the number of events that have been taken place. In Russia, for instance, it's quite common now to take about the necessity to switch roles, and women are becoming more and more actively involved in labor force. So they want their partners to be able to support them. And it's interesting because what I noticed when I asked my students, and they are the representatives of the younger generation, that actually the guys that they are ready to support their partners, their female partners, their wives, and versus their fathers and grandfathers are less likely to do so. They would say, no, 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 this is kitchen is for the women, and you have to take care of the kids. While younger guys, they would say, no, let's do it together. Let's share the chores together, and let me help you with this, and let's look after the children together. So it's changing, and it's actually it's been reflected and been discussed in the media and in the social networks as well. Now, I would like to ask you, speaking about the common stereotype referring to your culture, what is the one that you heard? What is the most popular one that you heard about your culture, and is it true?
May I say like this?
Yes, please. Yes.
So I guess the most common one is that Kazakhs are always late. And there was one example from my personal life when we um, had celebration of New Year in our school. We had preparations for dances, and the only two persons who were on time were me and my friend. We are both Russians, and 72 persons were late for at least half an hour, and all of them are Kazakhs. So I guess this stereotype is completely true.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. But is it like it's is it being discussed, or is it being addressed, or is it can you say that people they accept it, they say no, 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 it's okay, um, or they try to be punctual, or it's okay, they just accept it as it is?
I would say they try to be punctual, but if someone's not punctual, they're like, oh, well, that's okay. They are
Okay,
also late.
okay, okay, so they find it's a good excuse, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Interesting, because in about being functional in Russia, I would say, speaking about business communication, referring to Russian culture, you're expected to be on time. And if you are if there is a meeting and you have to be well, now it's an online meeting, right? But still, you're expected to be on time. If you are 5 minutes, 5 minute late, that's well, that's okay. But 10, half an hour, it can create some problems. Versus in some cultures, I know that in some of the Latin American cultures, people again would say, "Hey, come on, it's all right." I remember I was together with my friends in Argentina, and we were supposed to come to the party, to a birthday party, and I was afraid to be late. And I thought, come on, guys, we were in the downtown of Buenos Aires and looking for the proper metro station to get to the restaurant. And my friend, one of my friends, he was from Colombia and another one was from Chile. And they said, no, don't worry. It's all right. If we show up half an hour late, that's fine. So we were late half an hour. And the birthday guy still wasn't there. He came, I think, 10 or 15 minutes after we arrived, and nobody was criticizing this. Nobody said, hey, why are you late? No, everybody was greeting him and his girlfriend, and started celebrating. So it's of course you have to keep in mind this cultural thing. And it's also, if you have to organize a business meeting and you have representatives of various cultures, you have to think about time and attitude to time. And you have to know, if you expect somebody to be late, maybe you should tell them to arrive early. And maybe for some other people's, you from other cultures, you can say, hey, okay, you can arrive late because I know you're going to be punctual. So it's important to treat it adequately and not to create problems. Now, also very interesting video, and you guys, if you heard about that, it's referring to French culture, obsession about French baguette. We were discussing it in the framework of cross-cultural management course with our students, and I suggested to watch it. It's France 24, French national TV channel. And the story was absolutely amazing because the reporter, the journalist, was interviewing French people, and they were all sharing their ideas. What is the best place to buy baguette? What is how do you ensure the quality? And it's interesting that there was discussion. There was an expert in the studio, and the expert said that, hey, actually, there was even a law that according to the law, there are 4 main ingredients and no preservatives, nothing added. So it has to be a particular formula. And well, that's wonderful. I think for me, it's a symbol of French culture, one of the symbols of French culture. And it was great to know that French people also think of it as a true national treasure. And they try to, I wouldn't say try to reinforce the stereotype, but they talk about it and they share this idea with other people, other nationalities. That's great. That's wonderful to learn more about a particular culture. And speaking about culinary elements and food media and food journalism, can you guys think of particular food elements in your culture that something that comes to your mind? For instance, Russian cuisine, Bangladesh cuisine, Kazakh cuisine, Chinese cuisine. What would be the first the key ingredient? Any ideas? Okay. Uh, Pakistani spices. Okay. Interesting. You mean the spices that you add to all the main dishes, right? Horse meat. Yes, thank you, Alexander. I don't know if I tried it. I'm not sure, but I heard it's very, very special. Yes, Afghanistan kebab. Wow. Okay, that would be the food symbol of your culture. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, speaking about the Russian culture, I would say Pancakes, pancakes with caviar, um, and yes, borscht. I would say borscht. Yes, Bangladesh biryani, khichdi, and beef. What okay, uh, beef, sweets. What is biryani? Can you please explain? Because I think it's something very, very specific. Biryani. It's like a soup or a salad or a special type of rice cooked. Beef and borscht are wonderful. Yes, borscht. Especially, I think borscht is good when it's getting colder, especially in winter time. Yeah, that what would be the best offer in a restaurant when it's you are here in the middle of January or February, and somebody offers you, would you like some borscht? And you say yes, borscht with beef. So that's important. All right, thank you guys. Other comments? Rice with okay, chicken, spices, chicken, beef. Okay, okay, thank you. Rice with spices and chicken or beef. Right, right. Can you guys cook? Uh, yes. Okay. Good. All right. Yeah, it's interesting because I heard that the international students who live at the who came to Ekaterinburg and are living in Ekaterinburg now, and they love cooking. And I think we even had this special festival, and the students were asked to bring their national food, and that was great. I have the image. Okay, I'll try to download it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing it. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the next slide. Yes, also, I love this French commercial. And I don't know, guys, if you heard about it, if you're familiar, it's Air France promo video. And I think it's so French. I think it's 100% French. And I asked one of the French students, what do you think about that? What is your opinion? And he said, yes, absolutely. Because what kind of symbols you have here, you have girls of different ethnicities. You have pretty looking girls and they are wearing this striped blouses and wonderful skirts. And one of these statements is it's elegant not to smoke because, okay, you're not supposed to smoke while on board. So it's chic and it's just non-verbal and verbal, all the statements, all the messages, including the hidden messages that are included in this ad, they're so French and they have this kind of the embodiment of French spirit. So I would encourage you to watch it, to analyze it, to take a closer look, and to compare it maybe with the other ads referring to your culture, and try to find the main elements here. Okay. Because I would say it's about the appearance, it's about the content, it's about the nonverbal behavior and gestures. It's like everything is so elegant, so smooth, so sweet, and yeah. So you can just if you watch it, you will find most of the symbols. Now, anybody from Italy here? Any experts on Italian culture? One of the famous stereotypes is, of course, a cup of coffee. All right. And Italians, they believe that and it's true, they know how to drink coffee. I think they would never accept to have a coffee for a takeaway, because for them, it's a true ritual. You have to stop by the bar. You have to spend some time talking to your friends or colleagues and share a cup of coffee. You can even if you have 10 minutes of break, even if you have let's say 7 minutes, you still can come to the bar and enjoy your cappuccino or espresso or whatever you want. But they would never, most of the Italian people and most of the Italian students I've spoken to, they said that coffee is also a national symbol, and in most of the Italian movies you can find it. There is this beautiful movie with Adriano Celentano and Ornella Muti, and one of the first parts, the very first episodes, the hero of Adriano is entering the bar and he's asking for a cup of coffee, cup of espresso. So, and the way he drinks, it's very quick and enjoys it. All right, and of course, we can encounter stereotypes in movies and in mass culture. Are you guys familiar with the movies that are being represented here in the slide? Any ideas, or maybe some heroes? Maybe you've seen the movies, or maybe you've heard about them. Can you please? Let me see. I have a comment in the. No. All right. Well, I will tell you because can we judge people from stereotypes because it may not be true? Of course, it's no. The main idea and the whole the main purpose of this class and this conversation is that yes, we have a lot of stereotypes. Some of them are very popular, but no, we can't judge people based on stereotypes because. Well, if you continue, well, if you stick to stereotyping, you can forget about individual traits of a particular person, and you are prone to be biased. And when you are biased, you cannot look at the reality, and you cannot see the real picture of the world. So it's this is the implication. This is the implication, and I want you to compare, to analyze, to apply critical thinking, critical approach. And yes, something, it may be common, it may be popular in our culture to think of the representatives of other people who live in a different culture as blah, 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 and you can insert a number of adjectives. But try not to do it because keep asking. The most important thing is to ask. Ask the real person, ask the expert, ask your fixer on the ground, ask someone who is familiar with this culture. Because, okay, here what we see. The first movie represented here is Vicky Cristina Barcelona. If you haven't seen it, please, whenever you have time, it's a wonderful movie. Yes, there are great stereotypes of Spanish culture, this wine, beautiful parks in Barcelona, very emotional discussions, great conversations, and wonderful action of Penelope Cruz, Scarlett Johansson, and Javier Bardem. A great trio and just a true masterpiece. And another movie, it's I think in English or in French version, it would be Perfect Marriage, if I'm not mistaken, because sometimes when they translate it from different languages, they sometimes change the name. So, and here the main characters are in Moscow, and of course in Moscow you can encounter people who look very similar and who supposed to look like Lenin and Stalin. Very famous politicians represent particular historical events that happened in our country, in our culture. So it's important to be aware. My idea and my goal of this conversation is to let you know, guys, that as long as you are informed, as long as you're aware of, yes, stereotypes exist, and it's we're all human beings. We want to categorize the world. We want to have the world in order. We want to have things in order. So it helps us. It makes our life easier in a way if we think, okay, these are blue, these are green, these are pink, these are yellow, and so on. But at the same time, keep asking, because sometimes you can make a judgment based on the stereotype, not based on the real picture. So beware and be informed and try to get more information. Sometimes you can say, yes, I heard that people who come from this culture are supposed to be, but I am a person and he's absolutely different. What does it mean? It means that not all the stereotypes are true to life. Well, it's part of our life. It's part of our reality. We have to accept it, but we have to be very, very careful. That would be my key message, and this is something that I want to share with you. So don't judge by stereotypes. Some of them are positive. Like let's say if somebody tells me, "Oh, I heard that Russian people are very hospitable." Yes, it's true. Yes, because we love to have guests. We love to invite people to our houses. We love to spend time with the representatives of foreign culture. It's something that we've learned to do for ages, and it has to do with our historical past because we had this Iron Curtain. It was not always possible to encounter someone who came from a different culture, and now we just celebrate this opportunity and we embrace it, and we love getting to know somebody new and getting to know something new about other countries and other cultures. And this is a general notion. And of course, you can meet someone who would say, "Oh no, I'm not really interested." Yes, this can happen. So you have to be ready for that. But please try not to be judgmental. Try not to be biased. Try to compare the facts and try to form the opinion based not only on the opinion of others, but also on the facts. I am a journalist by profession, so I know that the fact is at the core of mutual understanding. You can talk about opinions, but if you talk about the facts and you can talk about the interpretation of the fact, but if you have the fact and you compare the fact, that would bring you closer to consensus. That will help you to understand each other, and this will actually make the communication more effective. So basically, that's about it. Any questions? Any comments? Any any suggestions? Media is very dangerous. Yes, it is. It can be dangerous if you let it be dangerous. If you if they feed you, media is actually all the mass media, right? Traditional media, social media. We are all being fed with this information. If you let yourself be fed, it can be dangerous. But if you stick to critical approach, and if you think, okay, I have to compare the information I get from this source to the information I get from this source and see the difference and the interpretation of the same fact, you will be in charge. When you are in charge, you know that you can get a better picture, not a better, but a bigger picture of the reality. If you are not in charge, your picture of the reality would be different. So that's it. Media, of course, the role of the media is crucial. And of course, there are some people who are being influenced by the media agenda, and they let themselves be influenced because they think, okay, I will accept all the information. It's interesting. I believe it. But hey, you have to question. You have to ask. Maybe it's not true. Maybe it's not this way. You just compare the same fact, the way it's being interpreted by various channels, and you will see the difference. So that's the answer. And that's, thank you very much, Murtaza. Like Hollywood shows Russia negatively most of the time. Yes, because of the main messages they want to reinforce. And I actually, part of my other presentation, and I didn't have time to share it with you today. Maybe some other day, I would love to do it because I was doing a research on the image of Latinos, Hispanic in the US media. And it's interesting because they're so underrepresented. Although the number of Hispanic people, the number of people who come from Mexico, who come from Cuba, who come from Dominican Republic, and other Latin American countries, it's growing. It's growing now. Hispanics, they made up about 16 or even 18% of the total population of the U.S. But there still, if you look at the roles, if you look at the images that are created by the media, by the movies, you will see most of them are, okay, so criminals, maids, gardeners, maybe some teachers, maybe some lawyers, maybe some students. That's it. That's misconception. That's a true misconception. Yeah, so no, it's okay. I understand. It's fine. I understand your point. So guys, you really just keep asking questions and keep comparing, and don't trust one source. Try to compare information you get from different sources. And if you when you see the difference, what is the Russian plan to display the truth? You're referring to the Russian government. You're referring to the to me as a Russian scholar, as a Russian educator, or to which element are you referring to? And of course, when you say truth and you say objectivity, you can't get objective information. Nothing is objective, nothing, because if you well especially if you talk about politics, most of the times people don't have information beyond that provided by the media. In fact, so try to look for various sources within the media agenda. Try to do it. It's of course, if you I love this quote, if you are not being paid for watching this, somebody pays for you to get this information. So somebody is interested in you learning this particular information and coming to this and jumping to this particular conclusions as a result of this story, as a result of this documentary, as a result of this movie. Somebody is interested. So the question is, who's interested, and what is the key message that is being hidden between the lines? Because there are many messages hidden between the lines, and I think that we have to make this choice. We have to decide whether we want to be in charge or whether we want to be led. Do you? And it depends if you how you answer to this question. If you want to be in charge, it means that you want to switch from one source to another and come to one conclusion to another, to analyze information and not stick to black and white approach. But if you want to be led, you say, okay, you feed me with whatever you do, and I will accept whatever you offer me. Please don't do this, because you have to be in charge of your life. You have to be in charge of the decisions that you make. Don't you ever let anyone else do this. Jump into your life and make you think what is right, what is wrong. You are the one who makes these decisions and answer these questions. Most of the times people don't have information beyond that provided by the media, especially in countries where media is censored. The key is to be in charge. I like, yes. And you have, and it's not always easy. It's not always easy, guys, to be in charge, because we have limitations. We have some restrictions, and Russia will be self-dependent within the next 10 years. This does not impact Russian life. Well, thank you for this for this forecast. I hope so. It's when we talk about geopolitical issues, it becomes really complicated because of the so many components involved and so many different agenda types of agenda involved. It's I would say that now we are not that influenced by the agenda set by the government, because we have social media. We can communicate face to face. We can set up this Zoom session and you can ask me questions directly, not addressing the government, not addressing somebody. You can ask me or I can ask you, and I will trust your opinion and much more than I would trust somebody who will speak on the behalf of the official news source. So the thing is that one of the statements was made by the international scholar who was invited to give a talk at our at the journalism department at the Ural Federal University. It was Elizabeth Jackson, and she said that no matter what the political agenda is, and no matter what kind of relationship there are between the countries, the most important, the crucial is the quality of interpersonal communication. I believe in that. I believe in interpersonal communication. I believe that interpersonal communication is the key to understanding more about other cultures. And I trust this because most of the information I've learned and I was going to share, and I would like to share and continue sharing with my other students and with you, hopefully, is that the information I received face-to-face and face-to-face conversations with students, with scholars, with teachers, with people who come from other cultures, and their opinions were not influenced by political agenda, by economic agenda. Yes, they were opinions, but they were freely spoken, freely expressed. So I hope, with that said, we can wrap up and conclude that actually it's important to watch what kind of stereotypes are being reinforced, and at the same time it's important to compare the opinions that you hear with the facts that you get. And as long as you decide to be in charge, as long as you decide to apply analytical approach, you can protect yourself from being influenced, from being dependent. And this is what I would like for you to do. I would like to thank you very much for your participation, for being so active, and it's wonderful. I see your comments, and it's great that I think I would, of course, I would refer it to the face-to-face discussion, but now we have the special conditions, and at least we were able to have an online conversation. Thank you very much, guys, and I hope you were able to learn something interesting from this lecture. I would encourage you to join our other lectures and classes, and thank you once again for being with us.
Thank you very much, Elizaveta. Thank you, everyone who joined us today. Please fill in the feedback form. The link is in the chat. And we are looking forward to seeing you at our next lecture next week. Goodbye.
Thank you. I also hope everybody stays safe. It's very important. So thank you. Thank you, guys. Everyone stay safe.